Hello, Spirit Squad. It's your boy Dre, and today we're going to talk about spirits in the world of Modern Horizons 2. Now, Modern Horizons 2 did not have any specific cards that happened to be great for spirits, but we did have a bit of spirits adjacent goodness that happens to work really well with what we're doing. We got a couple of decent sideboard cards, some zero cost options, and a creature that I believe happens to fit right into the natural spirits plan. Now, this is going to be one of the least subtle entries into the Spirit Squad, and that's going to be Subtlety. Now, Subtlety, for anyone who doesn't know, is going to be a 4-mana, 3/3 flash flying creature, which is already on plan. Our entire deck wants to be flash and flying. But when Subtlety enters the battlefield, you can put target creature or planeswalker spell from its controller's stack on top or on bottom of their deck. So that it removes it from the stack entirely, it's not going to resolve, sucks to be them. And the fact that Subtlety costs 4 means that it's also going to cost less than a lot of the threats that we're looking to disrupt. So that's going to disrupt things like Primeval Titan, Karn, and Karn, Thragtusk, Wormcoil Engine, Teferi, you name it. But speaking of costing even less than the threats we're looking to deal with, we also have an option to cast Subtlety for 0. Subtlety for 0, just exile a blue card from your hand. Basically Force of Will. And when we get to cast cards like Force of Will in the world of Modern, that means that we, as Spirits Pilots, are typically going to get the turns we need to finish out games against the decks that are slower than ourselves. And that's usually all we want to deal with, right? Is just take care of the things that really get in our way so that we can kill our opponents by turn 4 or turn 5, and then we are happy people. So let's take a look at this deck list, and we'll check out exactly how Spirits functions with the new card Subtlety. Whew. Y'all, I was not about to wear that hot-ass mask through this whole video. But, complaining over, what we got going on here is blue-white spirits in the world of Modern Horizons 2, and honestly, I think we're in a really good spot now. So, if we check out the meta here, we'll look at the top decks, and we'll see that Izzet Blitz has taken just a tiny bit of a backseat here. It's down to being the third place deck from first place deck. We'll see that there are really other things taking place in the metagame. So we've got things like Amulet Titan, we've got Burn, we've got Dredge, we've got D&T, a little bit of Ponza, Through the Breach has taken some seats down, which is probably okay for us. We got Blue-White Control, Grixis Death Shadow, and Heliod Company. And here we'll see that now that we have access to Subtlety to get the really big threats from decks that we were really concerned about before, the hell off the stack, i.e. Primeval Titan off of Amulet Titan, Stoneforge Mystics and stuff like that from Death and Taxes, Carnegate Creators and Chandras and stuff from Ponza. We're going to be really excited to just be able to compete with a lot of these decks by slowing them down, regardless of whether they have Cavern of Souls or not. So that means that we're no longer stuck trying to play BS like Disdainful Stroke out of the board. We instead just get to play an on-plan creature that at 4 mana has Flash and Flying and can attack them, and at 0 mana messes up their entire turn without having to tap out or without having to not deploy a creature on turns 2 and 3. So we get to play very, very on plan as far as disrupting our opponent's threats and still managing to attack them at the same time. That's a lot of why Force Negation is so good. Except we don't have to play Subtlety in the sideboard. We can deal with threats that we want to deal with in the main deck. It's going to be a good time. Also, if we want to check out the actual deck list itself here, so what we got is going to be just a giant pile of spirits. We're playing 34 creatures, 4 of which are the Subtleties. But we're also playing the same 4 Aether Vials, so nothing's changed there. Except now, to accommodate Subtlety, we're playing a 22nd land in the deck. So now we've got 3 basic islands and 2 Moorland Haunts in the deck. When you pitch Subtlety, or rather evoke Subtlety, to use its ability for 0 mana, then remember that you're going to be putting Subtlety itself in the graveyard. That's going to give you a little bit of instant fuel for your Moorland Haunt. Even though you exile the creature that you're actually pitching to it, still fine, honestly. In the sideboard here is where a lot of the fun stuff's going to live too. So we're going to be trying this new removal spell Suspend. Honestly, I don't know whether it's great yet or not, but it's new, it's shiny, I want to try it, and I think it's going to be better for us than Path to Exile. So hear me out. With Suspend, we get to make sure that the thing we are looking to get off the table does not come back for another 2 upkeeps after you cast your Suspend. So when you have 2 additional turns, or rather an additional turn and a half with Suspend, for 1 mana, a lot of the time that's just going to be enough for us to cross the finish line, because if you're getting rid of their big giant flyer, like say a Stormwing entity, that means that we're going to have the clearance we need to continue attacking our opponents until they're dead. And that's really all we want to do, because let's be real, we don't really have too many ways to kill opponents other than, well, actually killing our opponents. And stopping those speed bumps that can be opposing flying creatures, or stopping our opponents from being offensive for long enough to continue our plan of attack, is exactly what we need. So Suspend might actually be the way for us. We also get another new toy here, and that's going to be Sanctum Prelate. Now, anybody who plays Legacy knows that Sanctum Prelate is the absolute nut in some circumstances. If you're playing against Storm, use Sanctum Prelate where X is 2, Data can no longer cast Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, Grape Shot itself. Really just sucks to be them. No Manamorphoses, nothing. If you play it against Prowess, you can name one that stops their Lightning Bolt, Mutagenic Growth, Opt, Lava Dart, all of the really obnoxious things. They can still cast things like Expressive Iteration and Manamorphose, but like, okay. And even against like control decks, for example, you say you're playing against, I don't know, Esper Control. Well, if you name X as 3, that puts a stop to their Archmage's Charms, Esper Charms, Kaya's Guile, all of the really obnoxious stuff that you would otherwise have to deal with at 3 mana. And Sanctum Prelate is ultra obnoxious. Like, I think that card is going to be an instant slam dunk and might even be good enough to revive Modern Humans. And I think it's going to be almost as good for us. And whew, I am very hyped to see that card do some stuff. Now, also, things that I expect to see. Remember that Flame Rift is part of Modern Horizons 2. And Burn is already the second most played deck in the meta here. So we're probably going to see an even higher number of Burn players. So we're going to be playing, of course, the Sanctum Prelates, but also 3 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. Now, Leyline of Sanctity, of course, doesn't do anything to Flame Rift itself, but it still helps against the rest of the deck. So that stops all of the Rift Bolts to our faces, Skewer the Critics to our faces, Boros Charm, Skull Crack, Lava Spike, you name it, right? And also, Leyline of Sanctity is going to be really good against all of the Grief plus Ephemerate piles that I expect people to be trying this weekend. It's also going to do some good work against just decks like Jund, that got a new toy in Turok. It's going to stop things like, say, 8-Rack, that might also play things like Turok, so maybe you'll see more of that this weekend, who knows. Anytime they get a toy, they come out in droves somehow. I didn't even know there were droves of 8-Rack players, but here we are. Also, we're going to be playing just our regular Force Negations and 3 copies of Rest in Peace. I think this one's going to be important. So, Dredge is already one of the most top played decks this weekend, but I think we're going to see an even higher number of graveyard decks this weekend for 2 reasons. A, it's a new format. So whenever people don't know what the hell they want to do, usually the way to win Magic is by playing just the most streamlined, powerful thing you can do. And a lot of the time, that means Dredge. Especially in a world where you're playing Creeping Chill and a lot of the metagame is Burn. So Dredge is probably going to see a huge uptick this weekend. Be on the lookout for it. The other thing is going to be the fact that Grief costs 0. And so does the green Evoke card Endurance. Because these things cost 0, and because a new Basking Rootwalla, the red Rootwalla, is a thing that exists now, expect Vengevine to see a lot of play this weekend. I expect Vengevine to be all over the place. I don't know what people are going to play it in. I don't know whether you're going to try it in like some Madness Asmo shells. I don't know whether we're going to see Crabvine. I don't know whether somebody's going to try to slot it somewhere like in a Dredge adjacent deck. Who knows? But because we got Grief, we got Endurance, we got a Rootwalla, and we got Chef Asmo, I think we're going to see a lot of Vengevine lists come up. So Rest in Peace is going to be a card that really just needs to be respected. And I think 3 is going to be the number that we want to play starting this weekend. And if it turns out that we want some number of Remorseful Cleric as well, we can plan for that. But that's going to be my take on the Spirits deck list, and that's going to be my take on why I think Subtlety is going to be playable. So if you think Subtlety is going to be a card that's playable this weekend, cool, let me know in the comments, let me know what you plan on using it in, being it Spirits or some other deck. If you think that Subtlety sucks, cool, tell me why. I mean, Force of Will, nobody's trying to convince you it's a good card in Legacy, so if you don't think it's a good card in Modern either, I understand that argument, let me know what yours is. But as always, if you like what you're watching, make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, and I will see y'all on the next one.